So normally I start off with a standard intro, but I'm not doing that here. I want to start off by being absolutely clear that I am not saying Shogun is a bad show. I am not calling Shogun trash. But what I am saying is that my experience around the show and the talk around the show set my expectations so high that when I actually interacted with the show, I was ultimately let down. Just hearing the title of the show, Shogun, and hearing a lot of the chatter that I heard online, I was expecting something that would be super entertaining, something that would be action packed. But what you're actually getting is Game of Thrones if Ned Stark was smart. Now, that's not actually my analysis. That is a tweet that I stole from Mina. Mina is a football analysis person. She's a super smart person when it comes to what happens on the field, and I respect her opinion. And she was tweeting, talking about her love for the show, and she said that about the show, and that put everything into perspective for me and why that show is ultimately not for me. So let me list the reasons why this show is overhyped for me personally. Like, what happened to me that set my expectations so high? First thing is social media. My interactions with the show on social media is that every week for a few weeks, I would get a random tweet in my For You section, and it would always say something like, Shogun is the best show of 2024 and nobody's talking about it. I would log on to Facebook and I would see people writing little opinion posts talking about how, hey, y'all not talking about Shogun enough. That is a show that needs to be in the conversation every week and people just not talking about it. Reading those tweets and watching those comments really made me think, hey, maybe I'm missing out on something amazing here. Maybe I am passing up on one of the best shows of the year. Maybe I should give it a chance. So my anticipation level rose a bit after those initial few weeks of the show being released. The hype was definitely building, but then you look at what was coming out on the normal media, not social media, but articles were rolling out, promotional images were rolling out, and my interactions with them went like this. I'm looking at interviews with Mr. Sonata, who is the most famous person in the show. Like, when I look at his face, I'm always excited to see any kind of project that he's a part of. But as I was reading interviews and I was looking at headlines, they kept talking about how he wanted to produce something that was very authentic to Japan and something that was very authentic to the history of what really occurred at that time. Just the thought of him having his own passion project and being so passionate about it, I was excited. My hype was building. Then you start looking at the promo art for the show, and the promo art looks badass. Everything you see about the show looks very, very intimidating. The armors look super cool. You got him with the sword. You got other characters with guns in their hands. And it's like, yo, this stuff really looks like it'll be exciting. At this point, the show had been out for about 5 weeks and there was a stack of episodes sitting there on Hulu that I could just turn on and watch. So I decided I'm going to commit some time. I'm going to watch the show. I'm going to give it at least 3 episodes and we will see what the hype is about. And so I put on episode 1. And as I'm looking at episode 1, I immediately noticed the production value is insane. The hairstyles, the costumes, the shooting on location. I don't know exactly where everything was shot, but it just looks impressive based on what I'm seeing. And I'm thinking, hey, this really is as good as advertised. Let me get into it. And the episode goes, and I think that first episode is an hour, and I didn't get through it, y'all. I fell asleep. But at this point, my hype was so high that I said, you know what? I'm going to commit to watch at least 3 episodes. So I'm putting them on and I'm restarting and I'm going back to what I remember. And it ends up taking me about a week to watch 3 episodes because the show is slow. Now, at that point, I could tell if I committed to watching the show, I would watch an entertaining, very complex weaving narrative that, you see people build alliances, you see people building romances, you see political jostling between all these different factions, and I don't care about any of it. I'm sorry. Something about the show just didn't grab me. And I know that normally I can watch a good drama. Normally, I can watch something that is slow burn and slower pace, but that style of Games of Thrones, like the way it was presented in the Mina tweet, just perfectly encapsulated what I feel like the show is. It is truly a Game of Thrones type show, and I was never into Game of Thrones, and I'm not into the political narratives and like slow burning until we might have an epic action scene in the last 2 episodes, but I'm never going to get that far. I dropped off at the third one and I don't see myself going back. I knew that things were set up to start happening. It just didn't move fast enough for me. I'm absolutely not knocking it if you're loving it, but for me, it's just not my thing. But if you do love it, please let me know, what do you love so much about it and what kept you engaged with the show. Please share your thoughts in the comment section because those are all mine. That's all we have for this with y'all. Enjoy yourself, guard your heart, and go watch something good.